Welcome to Tuesday, the 20th day of February 2024. This Day Weather Podcast is being brought to you by Hot Springs County Travel and Tourism. Reminding you that no matter how cold and snowy it gets, you can always swim, soak, and slide in hot water. Check them out at thermopolis.com. Well, we're going to call it the Pacific Pipeline. You'll see why here in a moment. At least for another day or two along the Front Range, the Rocky Mountain front, and out east of the plains. It's going to be very, very mild. Very mild Pacific air is going to be moving across the nation, bringing some very mild February weather our way. But the way the winter is gone, we know it's been back and forth. So don't worry, it's not going to be mild forever, as we'll show you here in the longer term. But it is going to be very mild on the plains. A little bit windy in some areas. We're already seeing, at least in the mountains of Wyoming, Colorado, and Utah, back to California. Snow showers formed overnight, and those will be around. Now, we are going to continue to watch the potential for an I-80 snow event Wednesday and Thursday, and this will bring possible travel hazards. It's going to be a rather, on a geographic scale, not really big. And sometimes this is a problem because people are going to be driving into this unaware, because it's not covering very populated areas, so it tends to be ignored. But this is going to be a concern for travelers. We'll show you where along Interstate 80. We're going to be watching that strong Pacific jet stream move across the Pacific into the western United States next week, and that's going to instigate changes. It'll instigate a change to colder weather, number one. Number two, it'll bring snow chances our way, and that may be followed by another storm about a week later as we get into early March. So right now we're in a Pacific-dominated phase for about 6 days. Then a colder phase is coming as that strong jet stream wind migrates across the Pacific. Got a couple of shots out of Utah here showing Mount Nebo there in Utah. Very, very snowy this weekend. Another shot out of Utah showing what a difference it makes to be on the north side of a slope in the shade, where the sun can't reach and melt the snow while the south sides of the slopes melt out. Anybody that has a north-facing house knows how that works, right? Where it seems like the snow on the north side of the house sticks around all winter long. Now, I wanted to go over some snowpack information and show you where the update is. We'll step through a few states and take a look at the entire West United States. So for Wyoming, the Bear River at 110%, really catching that Pacific moisture. What you're seeing here, the green, where you see green, snowpack is 90% or greater. Where you see blue, it's greater than 110%. The yellow areas get up to just short of 90%. And you can see there's a gradient. And this gradient is something that we talked about this fall that may happen with an El Nino, as the bias for the better snow will be in the central and southern Rockies. And that's exactly what's happening. And I think that's how the winter will play out. The snowpacks up here, while I still think there's hope on the way, are certainly not going to be able to catch up as much as areas are doing right now to the south. So you can see the Little Snake at 99, Upper North Platte at 91. The Laramie's growing a little bit. This is just, the South Platte River is actually doing very well. This is just Crow Creek. This is one SNOTEL sensor. That's basically up there on the summit. So that red is a little bit deceiving, at least for the whole South Platte Basin. But you can see the Bighorns, the Black Hills, the northern part of Yellowstone, and there's just a gradient where the better snowpack is further south. But we're certainly seeing some help here. And these are the bigger drainages in terms of where we got a lot of water. We would certainly need some more help up north. Colorado doing pretty good. Got a lot of green there. And Colorado, especially up here, over the next week is going to do very well. A lot of these will go into the 100s. Look at Utah. Utah doing very, very good. Lots of blue, lots of green. So let's take a look at the entire western United States. And here's this gradient we talked about right here, to where you go south of this line, while there's a few patches of yellow, and what's happening in California, this will all go green here before the week's over. We got a lot of blue here. So there's definitely a bias of where the better moisture has come off the Pacific into the central and southern Rockies. Again, this is something you would expect in an El Nino, with the northern snowpack having a harder time getting the systems to get that better moisture north. Now, I think in the coming weeks, as we get into March and April, there will be some help coming to those areas, but they're going to end up falling short by the end of the season. Now, I talked about a Pacific pipeline. Can you see it? It's pretty obvious. Look at this flow of moisture being brought up into the western and southwestern United States. The counterclockwise spin right here is where the low pressure center is, but there is a pipeline of deep Pacific moisture getting pushed through California and coming into the Great Basin. It's narrow, and this is where it's really going to show up on the maps. If you look at the water vapor imagery, you see how deep that water vapor is coming on up. Now let's loop the precipitable water, and where you see the dark green and blue is where you have that really deep moisture that if the conditions are right, you're going to get precipitation. Now, not all areas that are green or blue are going to get precipitation, but when you have all the right ingredients to lift the atmosphere, those green and blue areas will produce significant, or let's say measurable moisture. Then you can see the drier air comes in behind it. So if you just look at this arch right here that forms from today through the next 72 hours, see how it goes across the southwestern United States, but there's also this tongue right here that goes right along Interstate 80. Then when we start to see and piece things together with the low here, the funneling of that moisture right here, showing by the green arrow that we just showed you on the satellite imagery, it's just pumping that, it's like a pipeline, pumping that in. Now by Wednesday, the low kind of goes that way, but that moisture is still there. The low kind of weakens, but it's just going to go basically zip right down I-80. So this is what we get. We get a tongue of moisture right up like this, going like this, while onshore flow continues to make it wet along the Pacific Northwest coast and central and northern. And also, this is a really good way to make it rain in Southern California. So basically, there is a connection from the Pacific all the way through Nevada, up into Utah, down the I-80 corridor of Wyoming, before petering out a bit into western and southwest Nebraska, but also getting along and north of Interstate 70. Notice, nothing going on up here, really nothing going on here. It's just this tongue kind of coming right through, kind of shooting the gap right here. And that gap is Interstate 80. So as we take a little bit of a closer look with the potential for snowfall, we've got a couple of areas where we're going to have travel problems. Parts of Albany and Carbon County, Wyoming, basically is especially you get up in those higher elevations from the summit to just past Rawlins to Wamsutter. Look at this. Along the high Wasatch of northern Utah and the Uintas, getting into Uinta County and parts of Lincoln County, far western areas of Wyoming and western Sweetwater County, there could be some very heavy snow right here near Evanston, over to Mountain View, up to near Kemmer here and up into near the Star Valley area. Then around the Snowy Range and the Sierra Madres, there's another potential for some heavier snowfall. Again, this is going to be as we get into the Wednesday night, especially I think it's going to be really late tomorrow night into early Thursday. We'll have a little bit more detail for you tomorrow. We'll also probably see the snow extend a little bit further out down I-80 through the Cheyenne area as well. So if you're going to travel I-80, also I-70, maybe Interstate 15 as well, there's going to be some travel hazards midweek. But notice, when you get out into these areas, there's really not a lot going on. That's why if you're headed westbound on I-80 or I-70, you need to be prepared, or tell people, if you know, that are coming, that there's going to be more weather than they might suspect. Now, by the weekend, all of that goes east, high pressure builds in, but things are brewing up here, as we've been telling you. This is also going to continue to sit off the west coast, keeping California wet through the weekend. Then, as we get to next week, I drew a cold front boundary in here because there's a lot more in the way of colder air going to become available. Because what will happen is, while we're going to still have the Pacific through the weekend into early next week, it gets replaced by air mass up here. And what will happen is, around Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, it gets a whole lot colder. So you can see cold starts to intrude and come back our way again. So despite this mild weather, cold certainly has a lot more opportunity to come back. Have yourself a good Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow.